We are continuing with our next session. So we are continuing with our next session. And the first presentation is with Nils Couturier and Lara Nugues from Basel.
So, today we are going to talk about a database called TIMBRE that Nils and I are building from our respective corpora. We are both working on popular genres, that is to say here genres intended for a wide audience. For Nils, his corpus is about 19th century chansons, namely the collections of Pierre-Jean de Béranger and Jules Jouy. And chanson is here considered as a broad genre, including all types of text intending to be sung. In my case, my corpus is made up of vaudeville couplets from the 1830s, and at that time in France, a vaudeville is a play that alternates prose parts and sung parts in verse called couplets.
So you can here see on the screen a representation of our corpus. In gray, the vaudeville plays. In blue, the collections of songs by Béranger and Jouy. These two corpora are linked by the use of timbre. Indeed, the songs of Béranger and Jouy, like the couplets of the vaudeville plays, are mainly sung to tunes that are already known to the public, which in French are called timbre. A very lively, Béranger continued the tradition of 18th century practice of timbre, a very lively practice in which the vaudeville writers of the 1830s, influenced by Béranger, were also involved. For its part, Jules Jouy, who came from the world of café-concert, composed songs to timbre around 1887, at a time when this practice tended to disappear. In my collections of songs, the tune, or timbre, is indicated with the French word air, written above each of the text, as you can see here. Air simply means tune in French. Below are the lyrics, and more rarely a score. At the time, these scores were not necessary, as the tunes were often already known.
In my corpus, as in the chanson corpus, the tune or timbre on which the vaudeville couplets in verse is to be sung is also indicated above with the French word air. In vaudeville plays, these tunes are mainly well-known popular tunes, but sometimes some tunes are created especially for vaudevilles and are specified as new tunes. It should be noted that this mention of the tune or timbre almost always takes the same form and is found in the same place in our two corpora. The systematic aspect of this timbre object, easily identifiable, lends itself particularly well to the construction of a database. Moreover, tunes are present in great quantities in our corpus, making it possible to create both coherent and large datasets. As far as we know, there is no database on the tunes of Jouy songs and on the tunes of the couplets of vaudeville play from the 1830s. And there is only a database in paper format on the tunes of Béranger songs.
So why build such a database? The aim is to make it easier to access the data in our corpora. Instead of leafing through a book, they are grouped together in one place and ordered. This pooling allows us to make our two corpora interoperable in order to compare and study them. Moreover, the distant reading brings to light phenomena that would otherwise remain unseen and places them in a diachronic perspective. This distant view greatly helps our study of tunes, our understanding of their use, their properties, and especially their circulation. Before presenting some examples of these results, let's first look at the steps involved in building our database.
So, the first step in the construction of our database was the creation and preparation of a digital corpus. So for my part, I collected 131 printed vaudevilles play created in Paris for the first time between 1830 and 1832. These vaudevilles play in PDF format come mainly from the Google Books online library. The books available there have the advantage of being already authorized with very good accuracy rates. Thanks to a Python script written by Pet Pleshak, it was possible to retrieve the text authorized by Google Books from the PDF and to store them in plain text. And afterwards, the OCR errors had to be corrected manually.
In my case, the two collections of songs have been authorized by Google or Gallica, then reread and corrected before being tagged. For one of the collections, I used the corpus of the Métrique en ligne project of the University of Caen, which already offered a tagged volume of Béranger.
Once our digital corpus was constituted, we set about tagging it. For the tagging of the tunes, we have chosen this tag, which consists of the element stage, the attribute type, and the value tune. We have also added additional information to the header of our XML that may be useful for the processing of our data, such as the names of the authors of our text, the year of their production, the place of their performance, and so on. After the tagging was done, the tagged information was extracted from the XML files and put into an Excel file. We then began the standardization of tune names, as you can see in the second column of the file. So we do that for the interoperability of our corpus. Indeed, the same tune can be spelled in different ways, have slight variation in naming, or be known by several completely different names according to its history. It is then necessary to carry out a kind of genealogy of tune in order to achieve the standardization process.
And to do so, we have chosen the oldest recorded name for a tune as the standard name. The principle here we have adopted is therefore to go back as far as possible in the history of the tune before standardizing it. This process makes it possible, as in a family tree, to find a common source of tunes that no longer necessarily bear the same name in our two collections. Let us take the example of the tune Amis, dépouillons nos pommiers, which comes from a vaudeville of 1799. When Béranger recorded it in 1816 for his famous song Paillasse, he kept the name of the original tune. But when Jules Jouy took it over in 1887, he reissued the tune under the title of Béranger's song, not the original title. The same tune is found on the vaudeville side in Lara's corpus under the original title. So, to understand that Jules Jouy 1887 song and the 1832 vaudeville are in fact sung to the same melody, it is therefore necessary to have previously identified their common ancestor. One might think that these identification problems are due to the historical distance between us and our objects, and the fact that we no longer have the memory of these names and these tunes. In fact, the need of classification for the tunes was first identified in the early 19th century, notably in a famous work by Pierre Capelle, entitled La Clé du Caveau. It is a collection of tunes used as a répertoire by chansonniers. It is striking that this collection is organized like a proto-database, with several tables, as you can see on the screen, an identification number for each tune. This makes it possible to connect the tune with its score, with its composer, with its genre, but also with the other titles under which it appears. Example of the tune studied above, we can thus collect a certain amount of information directly in La Clé du Caveau. The tune Amis, dépouillons nos pommiers acquires here an identification number, 35, which allows us in another table to find its composer, Doche, its genre, vaudeville, and the original play in which it is set, vaudeville. Finally, the identification number gives access to the score of the tune. We are collecting all this information on the tunes in our corpus and adding them into the third and fourth columns of our Excel file.
There are, however, several difficulties in this process of identifying these tunes. The first major difficulty is mentioned by Pierre Capelle in his warning to La Clé du Caveau, as you can see on the left side of the screen. Another no less common mistake is to quote a tune by the name of its play, such as Air de Marianne or Air de Montana. There are several tunes in these two plays. So here, Capel criticizes the way in which the chansonnier and the vaudeville writers name the tunes. They name a tune after the play for which it was created, as you can see here in this vaudeville with the mention of L'Air de Lantara in reference to the play Lantara. So, as Capel explains, there are indeed several new tunes composed for the play Lantara or Le Peintre Cabaret. To be exact, there are 3 new tunes composed by Dutch. Therefore, when one writes Air de Lantara, we don't know which of these 3 tunes is meant. There is no real solution to avoid this confusion. We must simply be aware that some entries in the database fall into this category, and that if we see L'Air de Lantara appear 50 times, it is possible that it is not the same tune 50 times. However, it also happens that among the many new tunes in a play, only one really becomes popular and passes into posterity. And in this case, confusion can be avoided since it is known exactly which tune it is, but this requires a play-by-play investigation. Another difficulty is the lack of precision in the naming of the tunes. For example, in the vaudeville Vert Vert, the tune indicated is labeled air connu, known tune, which makes it impossible to identify. The same applies to other vague names such as German tune or English tune, which could refer to a multitude of tunes.
Other tunes appear untitled in the documents, leaving the reader with only a blank space. In this example of Béranger, we can assume that this is a new tune. It will probably take the name of the song, Jeannette, or its first line, in later reuses. Finally, it should be noted that not all the tunes used in the vaudeville or in the songs are listed in La Clé du Caveau. The identification process also requires other sources of primary or secondary literature. Now, we will show you the first results of some queries to our database.
The database is currently in JSON format with all the information we have collected. We are able to query it thanks to Pat Fleshak, who also made visualizations for our presentation. So, in total, 2,239 tunes are present in our corpus, as you can see on the chart on the left. And so far, 586 have been standardized, that is to say about 30%. Our first results are based on these standardized tunes, which are currently distributed as follows. That's the chart on the right. 449 standardized tunes for vaudeville and 137 standardized tunes for song. So, first question we asked ourselves about our corpora was the question of the overlap. We wanted to know the number of tunes shared by our respective corpora. On this chart, you can see that the vaudeville corpus has 110 unique tunes, while the Béranger corpus had 35 and the Jury corpus 29. So, between the Béranger and Jury corpus, 3 tunes are shared. And between the vaudeville corpus and the Jury corpus, 5 tunes are shared, and between the vaudeville corpus and the Béranger corpus, 11 tunes are shared. That is to say about 30% of the tunes in the Béranger corpus. And these results attest to what we suspected, namely the influence of the Béranger corpus on the vaudeville corpus. Indeed, Béranger was a real star of the song's world in the first half of the 19th century, and the tunes he used became fashionable and were reused in the vaudeville repertoire. We expect this already large percentage to increase further when we process the rest of the data. With this list, we try to find out whether the influence between the Béranger corpus and the vaudeville corpus was also visible in the top 15 most used tunes in our corpora. The first hit that our corpora have in common is the tune Le choix que fait tout le village. This tune is in the first position in Nils' corpus and only in sixth position in mine. It is a tune created especially for a vaudeville in 1811 by the composer Dosch. The tune came, however, into fashion under a different name, thanks to the Chansonnier dépôt in 1817, then was later taken up by Béranger, who also made it popular. And it's most likely under Béranger's influence that the tune has returned to feed the creation of vaudevilles in the 1830s. So yes, Béranger's influence is important on the vaudeville corpus, but it's far from being the only influence. So the case of the tune Le choix que fait le village is however very interesting, as it shows a phenomenon of circulation from genre to vaudeville to chanson to vaudeville that led us to ask the following question: from which genre do the tunes used in our corpus come from? And in order to visualize the answer to this question, we have created three main subcategories in the genre column of our Excel table: vaudeville, chanson, and other. The category vaudeville corresponds to all the tunes originally created for vaudevilles. The category chanson includes all the tunes originally composed for songs, and in other we have placed the rest of the tunes, mainly opera tunes and opera comique tunes. Like vaudeville, opera comique is a genre that alternates prose and song, but unlike vaudeville, it uses only new music. And here, you've got the results of this categorization. It is striking that vaudeville fits mainly into itself, as you can see on the chart on the left, with more than 60% of the tunes coming from the repertoire of new tunes created for vaudeville. The same is true for chanson, as you can see on the chart in the middle. Chanson also fits into itself, with 58% of the tunes used coming from the chanson repertoire. However, it is interesting to note that the second most important source of tunes for chanson is the vaudeville repertoire, with about 25%. As for vaudeville, it is not the song that is the most important source of tunes, but the other category. And this result makes sense, as in the other category we have included opera comique tunes. And there is indeed a significant porosity between the vaudeville repertoire and the opera comique repertoire, which share famous authors such as Eugène Scribe.
But does this circulation lead to a reduction in the number of tunes used? And how sustainable are the tunes? The following chart should enable us to measure the rate of renewal of tunes in vaudeville or chanson. The aim is to see how many tunes are used once in the corpora or twice, and so on. The first results show that our corpus does not reuse tunes very much, and that they would therefore be quickly perishable. But the quantity of data processed is still too small to establish their scientific validity. We therefore expect a rebalancing, as can already be observed in the number of vaudeville that use 5 tunes, this is the 5th column, that are already known, for example. The circulation of tunes also ensures the repeated presence of certain composers in our corpus. The study of the recurrence of composers highlights the preeminence of certain octorial figures. The lasting influence of Dosch can be noted. In the case of songs, we note that certain authors take up compositions that are their own, such as Juju. With him, we see then a form of self-circulation of tunes. The comparison between the number of unique tunes taken from the same composer and the number of times they occur corroborates the repetitive use of the same titles. Jouy works on only 4 compositions of his own, but he reuses them massively in his production, 20 times. The same is true of Dosch in the vaudeville corpus. The number of unique tunes is 24, but their reuse is 150 occurrences. To conclude, the first results obtained show that the relevance of a comparative study, given the number of possible crossing over a varied historical period and over a diversified genre, vaudeville, poetic song, fin de siècle, cabaret song. The study also makes it possible to measure the hits phenomena, as we would say today. One may wonder what kind of tune is so successful. Is it due to their original genres, the reputation of their composer, or their musical characteristics? Further study would enable us to account for this, as well to expand our corpus. This expansion will lead us to a more detailed analysis of the historical perspective, with more advanced consideration of the different dates of composition and use. In the case of vaudeville, the theatres where the vaudeville plays were performed must also be included in the analysis.
Finally, we would like to mention an important dimension of this research that has not been dealt with here. The choice of tune also depends on the metrical structure of the text set to music. A tune is in fact designed to be applied to a particular metrical pattern. For example, one tune is just used for 8 octosyllabic verses. So this metrical dimension of the analysis of tune is part of our main project, Mining the Comic Verse, which focuses on the study of versification and humor. So, as we hope to have shown, the timbre is therefore a kind of multi-directional object whose study opens up perspectives that are both diverse and exciting. Thank you very much for your attention.
This great talk. We have ample time for questions. Levante has a question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was really interesting. I have two remarks. We have a very similar problem, just I've told you, with the 16th century corpus, different tunes. And what we tried was to make a network analysis and the presentation with Gephi, with the help of the Gephi. I don't know whether you have used this software, but it is rather nice and it helps really to see the combination of poems that are written to the same tune, the melodies that are connected to them, and in some cases when you have different melodies conserved to the same original text or to the same. So it's a very nice and complex structure that can be visualized rather well. It's just a visualization tool, but I can show you some pictures maybe later in a coffee break it's really spectacular how it can be nice. And for instance, in our corpus there is an author, just like Dosh, very important, but not at the beginning of the process as a creator, but someone who used lots of tunes from others, so and reused so many tunes for each of his compositions, and so it's very great to see how one person can be a key element of such a network. But otherwise, it was really good. And you're very lucky with this clay, I don't know what, that you have this manual that gives you this support. And two more little things. I saw the name of Karl Maria von Weber. I didn't know he wrote also vaudeville, but so in his opera, does he use the same tunes, or is there any relationship with that? I mean, between these genres, and the other one is not so important.
So thank you. Any other questions in the room, or Mari, you're following online, you're logged in? Not online?
I can.
What was the reaction to the question of Levante first, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I have it correctly, you are speaking about Weber, right?
Yes, Weber.
Yeah. So he made an opera, and it was really famous in Paris, and there were a lot of adaptations. And the adaptations are really funny because they are changing a lot the original opera, and so the adaptation is more known as the original opera in Paris. and then the music is reused in vaudeville corpus. So,
okay, so this is the Freischütz opera that was really...
Yeah.
Okay.
And Nils wants to react.
Yeah, I wanted to react to your first remark about the visualization tool. That would be very useful because what is hard, I think, is to keep the horizontal links between two songs and the genealogic links between them. So we were trying to keep both information, diachronic perspective and synchronic perspective. And I hope your tool is making both of them. Yeah.
I have a small question. How many of those tunes are like well known nowadays? How big portion? 10% per some more, or 50%?
Less than that, I think it's like 10-15%. And the problem is that sometimes you see a name you think you know, and when you read the score, it doesn't fit the modern version that was. So there are some transposition changement or naming problem that makes it very far from our comprehension of these tunes. So yeah. I don't know if it's the same in other linguistic area, but I think in Francophone, I think we lost a lot of memories of these tunes, but not the ones that are coming from a famous opera or folkloric songs that are still sung by children. But I think there are not so many.
For us, this reference of tunes is known mainly from church songbooks.
It's not the case here.
So we still have time for questions.
Thanks a lot. Very cool talk, cool results. I wondered. I really like the result about like genre differentiation, right? So, and the genres maintain their own boundaries in a way. So they prefer to use the same tunes within the same genre. So I thought, like, how do you comment on this particular result? Maybe you can also see change in time there. So over time, for example, chanson and vaudeville become more like diffused, or if this is not the case, or you didn't have this dimension in mind.
So I will speak from my corpus, for vaudeville corpus. So I guess theater world was a world really different from the chansonnier world. So and all the theater in Paris, there is not so many. There is depends what is many, but maybe 20, because it was really. Theater was something which were really politic, and there was a big censorship and control, and all the authors know each other. So it was really a little world, if I can say that. And in France, almost all the creation came from Paris.
Great.
So it's really a little. That's why I guess they are taking tunes from each other really quickly and easily, and in a theater in an evening, it was possible to play free theater plays one after the other, because it's really short play, so it's really easily to consume again with that, and it was almost an industrial practice. So
yeah, thanks a lot. That's helpful.
Okay, thanks a lot for all this question and answer. We have time for a quick question then.
Sorry, I will be very quick. Yeah. It's a very interesting phenomenon that there's a parallel in German popular and folk theater from the 18th and 19th century. There we have a lot of plays where music, tones and texts are linked. The texts are archived, the music not. So scores that are not available, they don't exist anymore. So I'm wondering if this could be well, a question or a problem of hierarchy, of understanding of text and music. Did you think about that? Could you comment this idea? So text has a higher value than music. Could be the meaning of this phenomenon.
Just a question. In your case, in your German corpus, is it new music or is it time?
Contemporary music.
But it was created for the play.
Well, both. Sometimes it was created, we don't know. Often we don't know. Sometimes it was created for this special play, and sometimes were used a melody, a song, well, that just existed. So both.
So I have two hypotheses. And the first one is that the people in the 19th century had a really big memories of sound, better than we have. And I know because of some books that people were singing all the time, and singing was a part of the social life more than today. So that's a possibility why people didn't really need to have score or written music. And the second things, and I also have this problem because, like Educabo, this book is really important for us, and we are really lucky to have it. But not all the tunes are inside. And it is also possible for theater to go to the archive from the theater, and into the archive we've got sometimes the score while still, and I was able to find some in theater archives. So, and you are right, it's also a question of hierarchy. So vaudeville is really a popular genre, and it's easily to find for opera comique or for operettes music score. But also because it's new music and there is some rights, so people are paid for new music as a composer. So it was also important to keep it.
I can keep the answer maybe for another time if we're running out of time.
Yes, thanks for that.